The landlord's smile was almost clinical in its precision. Clean suit. Perfect posture. The kind of confidence that comes from never losing. The kind that comes from knowing the system bends your way when you have lawyers and leverage. The courtroom felt smaller when he entered, like he'd already measured it and decided it wasn't worth his full attention. But something was about to shift. Something he hadn't calculated for. The case file sat on Judge Caprio's desk, thick with documents, rental agreements, inspection reports, photos that told stories their subjects didn't want told, and messages, so many messages, the kind people send when they think no one important is watching. The landlord's name was Marcus Whitfield, 43 properties across the city, a reputation for aggressive rent increases and creative interpretations of habitability standards. His tenants called him unresponsive. His lawyers called him a businessman. The truth, as usual, lived somewhere in the evidence. "Mr. Whitfield," Judge Caprio began, his voice carrying the weight of someone who'd seen this particular brand of arrogance before. "You're here because of complaints filed by residents at 847 Riverside, specifically about conditions that have persisted for 8 months. Whitfield's lawyer started to speak, but the landlord touched his arm. A small gesture, the kind that says, "I've got this." He leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, but present. "Your Honor, with respect, I manage 43 properties. Maintenance issues arise. We address them as quickly as resources allow. My team has been responsive to every reasonable request." The word reasonable hung in the air like smoke. Judge Caprio opened the file. Not quickly, not slowly, just deliberately, the kind of movement that suggests everything inside has already been read, studied, understood. 8 families, the judge said. Let's talk about them. Whitfield's posture didn't change, but something in his eyes did. A flicker, brief. The recognition that this might not follow the script he'd prepared. The first family, a mother with 2 children under 5. Her apartment's heat had failed in January. The radiator leaked rust-colored water onto floors her children crawled across. She'd called 12 times, left messages, sent emails. The work orders showed dates promised, then quietly postponed. "We had a parts delay," Whitfield said smoothly. "Supply chain issues. It's been industry-wide." Judge Caprio pulled out a document. "Your text message to your property manager, February 8th. Hold off on the repairs until spring. They'll move or pay up when we threaten eviction for lease violations." The courtroom went very quiet. Whitfield recovered quickly. Too quickly. "That's taken out of context. What I meant was—" "The second family," Judge Caprio continued, his voice unchanged, "reported mold in their bathroom, black mold, growing behind the shower tile, spreading to the bedroom wall. The daughter, age 7, developed respiratory issues. Their pediatrician's report is here. Asthma triggered by prolonged exposure." "We sent someone," Whitfield said. "The tenant wasn't home." Judge Caprio looked up, not sharply, just looked. "You sent someone once. On a Tuesday at 1 p.m. The mother works. You knew this. Her work schedule was in her lease application, the one your office approved." He wasn't raising his voice. Didn't need to. Each word landed with the precision of someone dismantling something carefully so nothing essential breaks too soon. Whitfield shifted. Small movement. Subtle, but there. "Judge Caprio, I want to be clear. I operate within all legal parameters. Housing code allows reasonable time for repairs. I've complied with every statutory requirement." "Reasonable," Judge Caprio repeated. That word again. The judge pulled out another document. A photo this time, passed it forward. Whitfield looked at it, and something in his face changed, just for a moment. Long enough for everyone watching to see it. "This is from your property on Elm Street," Judge Caprio said. Your personal residence, updated kitchen, new appliances, the marble countertops installed last March. Invoice here shows work completed in 3 days. He let that sit. Then pulled out another photo. This is the 847 Riverside kitchen, third family. The stove hasn't worked in 4 months. The father cooks meals on a hot plate on top of a broken oven. He's a line cook, Mr. Whitfield. He cooks for a living, comes home and cooks on a hot plate. Whitfield's lawyer leaned in, whispering. Whitfield shook his head. Minute gesture. He still thought he could navigate this. I prioritize based on severity and available resources, he said. Your resources, Judge Caprio said. And now there was something new in his voice. Not anger, something colder. Something that comes from understanding exactly who someone is. Your gross rental income last year was documented in your tax filings. $2.7 million before expenses. Your property management company employs 14 people. Your maintenance budget was $340,000. He paused. Let the numbers breathe. The repairs at 847 Riverside would have cost approximately $12,000 total, less than 0.4% of your gross revenue. But those repairs got delayed, month after month, while families lived in conditions you would never accept for yourself. The courtroom felt different now. The air had changed. What started as a business dispute was becoming something else, an exposure, not of crime, but of character. Judge Caprio pulled out another document. Your text messages with your property manager. I'm going to read a few exchanges. He put on his reading glasses. A simple gesture that somehow made what came next worse. November 14th. Your manager, the Riverside tenants are organizing, might go to the city. Your response, let them. City takes 6 months. By then we'll have new leases at higher rates. These complainers won't renew. Whitfield's face was stone now, but his hands moved. Small adjustments, repositioning. The unconscious tells of someone whose strategy is collapsing. December 2nd, Judge Caprio continued. Your manager reports the family with the broken heat is asking about rent reduction. Your response, they're month to month. Remind them. The judge looked up. You used their vulnerability as leverage. Business decisions? Whitfield said, but his voice had lost its smooth edges. This is how property management works. If tenants aren't satisfied, they can move. That's the market. The market, Judge Caprio said quietly. These families weren't in the market, Mr. Whitfield. They were in your buildings, under your responsibility, subject to housing codes that exist precisely because landlords have more power than tenants. Codes that recognize the imbalance and try to level it. He closed one folder, opened another. Here's what happened at 847 Riverside while you delayed repairs. The mother with the broken heat took her children to her sister's apartment. Slept on a couch for 3 weeks. The children missed school. The father cooking on a hot plate received a violation notice from the fire department because hot plates aren't rated for sustained cooking, $50 fine. He paid it, then went to work and cooked for people who'll never know his name. Judge Caprio's voice hadn't risen, but something in it had intensified. The family with the mold, their daughter's asthma medication costs $200 a month, not covered by their insurance. They chose between fixing their daughter's breathing and paying full rent. They paid rent and borrowed money for the medication because they were afraid you'd evict them for non-payment. Whitfield started to speak. Judge Caprio raised one hand, not aggressive, just clear. You created fear, Mr. Whitfield, deliberate fear. You knew these families had limited options. You knew winter made moving harder. You knew their children were in local schools, and you used all of that to avoid spending $12,000 on basic human decency. The silence in the courtroom felt heavy now. Physical. The law gives you broad discretion, Judge Caprio continued. But discretion isn't immunity. You violated Housing Code Section 237 by failing to maintain habitable conditions. Multiple violations across multiple units. The city inspector's report documents 37 separate code violations at 847 Riverside alone. He looked at Whitfield directly now. I'm ordering immediate repairs on all documented violations, completion within 30 days. I'm appointing a court monitor to oversee compliance. The families affected will receive rent reductions of 50% for every month. Conditions weren't met. Those reductions are retroactive to the date of first complaint. Whitfield's face went pale. His lawyer tried to interject. Judge Caprio continued. You'll also pay the medical expenses for the child with asthma, all of them, and you'll pay the fire department fine imposed on the father cooking on your broken stove. He closed the file. You treated people as revenue streams rather than human beings. You weaponized their need for shelter against them. The law might allow you to own property, Mr. Whitfield, but it doesn't allow you to treat people with contempt. The courtroom was completely still. Power, Judge Caprio said, his voice quiet now, almost conversational, is often mistaken for immunity. People who have it think consequences are for other people. They build walls of lawyers and contracts and assume those walls will hold. But walls need foundations, and your foundation was cruelty disguised as business. Whitfield stood there, no longer confident, no longer dismissive, just diminished, exposed not by what was done to him, but by what he'd done to others. Judge Caprio's final words were simple. Repairs begin Monday. Court adjourned. The gavel came down once, decisive, final. Some cases aren't about guilt or innocence. They're about whether power means you're above consequence, whether having more means you owe less, whether the system bends toward justice or just bends toward whoever bent it first. Today in this courtroom the answer was clear. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just someone with a file and a gavel refusing to look away from what matters. The people. Always the people. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe accountability shouldn't be a luxury, consider subscribing to Justice Talks. Stay healthy, stay aware, stay human.